We all know that being a teenager is tough, but being a teenager in the Griffin family is an absolute nightmare. Nobody catches more disrespect, physical danger, and pure unadulterated trauma than Meg Griffin.
Peter, would you give this to the nurse?
Uh-huh. Robots in disguise.
Over the years, Meg has been the victim of some of the most deeply uncomfortable, bizarre, and highly questionable situations in television history.
Go!
Today we are breaking down most sus things that have happened to Meg Griffin. Let's start the show. Kicking off our list of Meg's absolute most sus and unfair moments is Season 17, Episode 11, Trump Guy. What happens when Peter lands a high-profile job at the White House? Well, Meg becomes the target of some highly inappropriate behavior from the president, and her parents completely brush it off. Let's break it down. The madness starts when Peter somehow fails his way into becoming the new White House press secretary.
Don't go in there, it's not safe.
Well done, Peter.
The entire family relocates to Washington, D.C.
Welcome to our new place. I think we're going to enjoy the Beltway lifestyle.
And while everyone else is thrilled by the pageantry, Meg is absolutely miserable about leaving Quahog. To make matters worse, during a fancy White House dinner, the important guests keep confusing Meg for former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie.
Sweetie, I'm sorry everyone thinks you're a historically unpopular fatso from New Jersey.
Whatever.
Looking for an escape, Meg hides in the kitchen where she randomly runs into the president's daughter, Ivanka.
Is everything okay?
Huh? Oh, yeah.
Surprisingly, the two totally hit it off, bonding over the fact that they both have incredibly embarrassing, unpredictable fathers.
You know, Meg's dad is also—
Shut up, Tiffany.
Yeah, shut up, Tiffany.
Ivanka gives Meg a stunning designer makeover, and when Meg re-enters the party looking amazing, she gets a personal introduction to the president himself.
2/3 of the people here are talking about me.
Come on, let me introduce you to the president. He's kinda like my boyfriend.
But this is where things get deeply uncomfortable. The president immediately makes a highly questionable, completely unwanted physical advance on Meg.
Oh my God!
The next day, a traumatized Meg tries to tell her family what happened, but in typical Griffin fashion, her parents refuse to believe her.
What?
Meg, that's my boss. All right, this is my career you're talking about.
Instead of protecting their daughter, Peter and Lois are only worried that her accusations might ruin Peter's fancy new career.
You're still gonna work for that man after he assaulted me?
Meg, you gotta stop with these stories.
Peter actually goes back to work the next day, completely ignoring Meg's pleas. But his denial shatters when he walks into a room and catches the president trying to make another highly inappropriate move on his daughter.
But oh my God, President Trump is assaulting Meg!
Finally stepping up as a father, Peter officially quits his job and stands up to the commander-in-chief.
No, President Trump, we are not. I quit.
This leads to an absolutely massive—
We are done being mean and insulting like Donald Trump is. From now on, this family's gonna be nice and supportive.
city-destroying brawl between Peter and the president, perfectly mirroring Peter's iconic fights with the giant chicken. The two trade brutal blows until Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau randomly steps in to save Peter from a deadly fall, ending the feud. Meg's honor is technically restored, but the fact that her parents initially chose a job over her safety easily earns this spot on our sus list. Coming in at number 2 on our list of the most incredibly sus things to happen to Meg is Season 6, Episode 7, Peter's Daughter. What happens when a massive flood hits Quahog and Peter prioritizes a cold beverage over his own child's safety? Well, Meg ends up drowning, falling into a coma, and eventually sparking a highly chaotic fake pregnancy scare. Let's break it down. The disaster kicks off during a massive, violent rainstorm that completely floods the first floor of the Griffin house.
Oh my God!
I know, about the water, right? Wow, cool!
Lois urgently insists that the family flee to safety, but Peter refuses to leave without his precious beer. Because Meg is supposedly the strongest swimmer in the house, Peter forces her to dive into the flooded kitchen to retrieve his drinks. But things go terribly wrong when Meg's shirt gets caught on a cabinet, leaving her trapped underwater.
Peter, Meg's been in there a long time.
Boy, you cannot wait to criticize her at every turn, can you?
Go get her!
Instead of jumping in to help, Peter just casually notes that she has been down there for a really long time.
She's in there right now, taking a nap underwater.
For God's sake, save her!
Lois finally screams at Peter to go rescue their daughter, but when he pulls her up, she is completely unresponsive.
God, we better get her to a hospital.
Brian urges them to rush her to the hospital, where the doctor delivers the terrible news using some incredibly poor phrasing. Meg has slipped into a deep coma. Seeing his daughter lifeless in a hospital bed finally makes Peter realize how terribly he has treated her over the years.
Hey, Meg, you got something on your shirt.
Hi, Dad.
He tearfully vows that if she wakes up, he will completely change his ways and treat her like a princess. Almost immediately, a young, incredibly handsome doctor named Michael walks into the room, and the sheer power of him gently touching Meg's arm instantly wakes her up from the coma.
Oh my God, God, Meg, you're okay! Oh, Meg, my beautiful daughter! Oh, things are gonna be different. No more will I treat you like some kind of alien.
True to his word, Peter actually becomes a fiercely protective, loving father. He treats Meg amazingly.
Wow, Peter, I gotta say, you've really been true to your word about treating Meg better.
She's my only daughter, Lois. She needs to be protected.
Even going as far as brutally attacking her high school bully with a heavy fire extinguisher.
Hi, Peter Griffin, Meg's father. Say, can you do me a favor? You see that fire extinguisher there?
Meg decides to cash in a favor with her newly supportive dad and asks for his permission to date Dr. Michael.
There he is now!
Hey, Meg, you ready to go?
Dad, you remember Michael Milano from the hospital?
Peter is highly suspicious.
Dad, stop it! Michael's my date!
Meg, I almost lost you once. I'm not gonna lose you again.
Floating a bizarre theory that Michael might actually be two dwarves stacked in a trench coat, but he eventually gives them his blessing. The date seems to be going perfectly, until Michael spots Peter wearing a terrible disguise at a nearby table.
Oh my god, Dad! What do you think you're doing?
Thoroughly creeped out by her insanely overbearing father, Michael awkwardly ends the date and bails on Meg.
Meg, he just walked out on you. He's a bad man.
2 weeks later, a devastated Meg drops an absolute bombshell on her parents. She is pregnant.
I can't believe this. My baby's pregnant. How could this happen?
I don't know, but regardless of how it happened, and there's only one thing to do.
An outraged Peter kicks down Michael's door and forces him to take responsibility, which amazingly results in Michael proposing to Meg right on the spot.
But this changes everything. I want to be there for you, Meg. I love you. Will you marry me?
To celebrate, Peter throws Meg a bachelorette party, but manages to ruin it by volunteering himself to be the exotic male dancer for the evening.
It's Officer Nasty. Careful, I might be carrying a concealed weapon.
The big wedding day finally arrives, but right as they stand at the altar, Meg realizes she made a massive mistake.
I'm not pregnant.
What do you mean? How do you know?
I got my period.
Oh.
And admits that it was just a false alarm and she isn't actually pregnant. Relieved that he doesn't have to marry into this crazy family, Michael immediately turns around and sprints right out of the church.
I'm not pregnant.
What?
Honestly, almost drowning just to fetch your dad's beer and then faking a pregnancy easily earns this episode a top spot on our sus list. Coming in at number 3 on our list of the most sus things to happen to Meg is Season 4, Episode 27, Untitled Griffin Family History. What happens when the Griffin house gets broken into and the family hides in a secure panic room? Well, they force Meg to crawl through the air vents covered in their spit, only for her to end up aggressively turning the tables on the burglars. Let's get into it. The chaos begins when Peter and Lois are interrupted by the sound of breaking glass downstairs. Armed with a baseball bat, Peter checks it out and spots 3 masked intruders breaking into the house.
Oh my god, there are men breaking into our house.
Dad, what is it? What's going on? I heard a noise. Is somebody downstairs?
He quickly gathers the family and rushes them up into a steel-reinforced panic room hidden in the attic. Once inside, they realize there are security cameras to watch the house, but absolutely no phone to call the police.
Peter, there's no phone in here. How are we gonna call the police?
Oh my god, we're all gonna die!
So, Peter naturally decides to pass the time by telling long, elaborate stories about their ancestors.
Peter, can we stop the stories for a minute? We need to figure out how we're gonna survive. I mean, is there even any food in here?
Eventually, Lois points out that they have 0 food and need a survival plan. Brian comes up with the bright idea to send Meg through the air vents to escape and get help. Meg is absolutely terrified of the burglars, but Peter comes up with a highly questionable and incredibly gross solution. He tells the entire family to violently spit all over Meg to grease her up so she won't get stuck, claiming the intruders won't even want to touch her.
Be careful, Meg.
Hey, I hate you too, bitch.
After being shoved down the vent completely against her will, the family checks the cameras and finds her just casually making sandwiches in the kitchen instead of getting help.
Meg, I see you there in the kitchen. Put my sandwich on whole wheat, please.
Peter accidentally blows her cover by using the intercom system, and the burglars immediately capture her.
Oh no, the burglars got my baby.
The intruders hold up a ransom note to the camera saying they have their son, which the family casually corrects to daughter.
Meg's our daughter.
But when we check back in on Meg, she is actually perfectly fine. In a wild twist, she asks the burglars if this is the part where they take advantage of her, and they are completely horrified, loudly refusing her advances. Meg then aggressively turns the tables and forces herself onto them.
Yeah, I was so scared.
Making the prey become the ultimate predator. Meanwhile, the rest of the family is running out of oxygen in the panic room.
What are we supposed supposed to do with these?
leading Peter to make a shocking final confession before he passes out. He did not care for the movie The Godfather. Luckily, Joe suddenly busts the door down and saves them,
Wow, you saved our lives, Mr. Swanson!
revealing he has arrested the intruders. But unfortunately for Meg, the burglars are actively pressing charges against her for her highly aggressive advances.
Your daughter's a If you don't do anything, she could go to jail for a long time.
The family completely ignores her as she gets carted off to jail, easily earning this terrible panic room experience a top spot on our sus list. Wrapping up our list of the absolute most sus things to ever happen to Meg is Season 17, Episode 19, Girl, Interneted. What happens when Meg accidentally achieves massive viral internet fame? Well, she ends up pushing her body so far for views that she develops a severe medical condition and literally loses her feet. Let's break down this wild finale. The madness begins when Meg, Chris, and Peter see a commercial for a massive influencer-themed convention called Streaming Con. They decide to attend.
Dad, can we go to Streaming Con?
Well, I wasn't watching all that closely. Is it like a rodeo?
Sure.
We're going to Streaming Con! Giddy up!
And while watching a panel, Peter challenges a huge internet star named Corey, claiming it's impossible to make Meg famous.
I bet you can't make my daughter Meg an internet celebrity.
Dad, stop.
Taking the bait, Corey uses his massive platform to instantly get Meg trending online with the highly questionable hashtag, FridgeBodMeg. Desperate to build her new brand, Meg fully embraces the refrigerator persona. She starts streaming herself eating absolutely everything in sight, constantly pushing her limits before rushing to the bathroom.
Say if it's not Lando legs, it's not cream.
Amazingly, her terrible diet actually works, and her follower count skyrockets. She even hosts a massive meet and greet at a local ice cream shop just to show off her wildly unhealthy eating skills.
Yo, yo, yo! Everything here's made with corn syrup. Just drink the corn syrup!
But the extreme eating quickly catches up with her.
Oh my god, she collapsed. We gotta get her to the hospital.
Meg lands in the hospital where she receives some brutal news. She has developed type 2 diabetes, and her blood has essentially turned into pure sap.
What? Dad?
It's okay, Meg. You had a diabetic coma dream. Dad's still an idiot. I'm still an idiot.
But in the world of influencers, any press is good press. News of her diagnosis goes viral, and she instantly lands a brand deal as the official spokeswoman for a brand new insulin drug called Pancresta. Lois is understandably terrified about the lasting damage this will do to her daughter's health.
Failure, you could lose your feet. No amount of fame is worth it.
But Meg is completely blinded by the fame.
Raider Meg here, having one of my favorite snacks, French fry sandwiches on white bread.
Especially since her high school is throwing a massive pep rally in her honor. The day of the rally arrives and Meg shows up literally missing her feet due to the severe progression of her condition.
Hi, Meg. It's your friends Patty, Ruth, and Esther. If anyone remembered what we looked like, it would be shocking how fat we are.
Looking up at the stands, a now footless Meg sees that her viral videos have influenced all of her friends and classmates to gain a dangerous amount of weight just to be like her.
Dad, I can't do this. All my friends are fat because of me. I don't want them to lose their feet too. Everybody needs their feet.
Stricken with guilt, Meg finally tries to use her platform for good and preaches to the crowd about the importance of healthy eating. Unfortunately, her loyal fans absolutely hate the new message.
Bring back the fridge! Bring back the fridge!
They start aggressively stomping and chanting, which causes the entire set of bleachers to completely collapse, tragically crushing a gymnast underneath.
Is everyone okay, Principal Shepard?
Honestly, pushing yourself to the point of losing your own limbs just for some internet clout easily cements this as the ultimate sus Meg moment.
Well, I'm glad everything's back to normal. Lois, just do a line of Pank.